Hey everyone, welcome to POPXP. And before the show starts, make sure to click that subscribe button and click the bell to get notifications when we go live and we upload awesome new content. And don't forget, if you can, make sure to share our stream on all your social media outlets. We appreciate it, and thanks for helping us grow the POPXP channel. Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's the brain of the mainframe here, Nile Scala with the POPXP, and join me, I have a special guest. And you all know him. You know him. Maybe as the frozen bald guy. Maybe as the Overstreet guy. But we've got JC Vaughn in the house. JC, welcome, my friend.
Hey, Nile. How's it going, man?
Good. I'm excited. Actually, this is a good way to end the day. You know, with the way the news has been. With Ukraine and everything.
I started the day in the dentist chair, so it was pretty much all uphill from there, even with an invasion.
I know. Exactly. But we got a great show, man, because you have brought to light some lost universes.
I am really excited about this book. It came out last Wednesday, and reaction has really been great to it. Oh, thank you. And you've had a chance to see the book, and you know what I'm excited about. And I really think that with as crazy as some comic prices have gone the last 2 years, that all of a sudden these, by comparison, relatively inexpensive sets of finite sets of books might be appealing to some people who passed on them before. But I also think that for people who were collecting in the 90s and might have gone away, and all of a sudden they're thinking about some of the stuff that they really loved back then, and particularly all the experimentation that was being tried, whether it was original Milestone, original Valiant, Defiant, whatever. I think that there's so much energy in some of this stuff and so much creativity that you sort of got to try it. And I just wanted to get it documented. And that's what we set out to do. And we spent a good bit of time doing it. And you've seen the results. So what do you think?
I think it's incredible. The amount of so right off the bat, is it a price guide? It is a price guide, but it's also a textbook. It's history. It is re-engaging comic book universes, honestly, JC, that I completely forgot about. And some of the creators and the guys that worked on them that I forgot about. And it really re-engaged me. And I'll have to say, what I really loved, because I really started getting back into it, is Milestone Comics. And now I'm not going to miss a beat because you've cataloged that.
I want to say something about Milestone in particular. I actually want to call out two of these universes that we covered in there, and really say that there were a confluence of events that made this book happen. Now it's something I've always wanted to do. You know, one of the things is you've got the Overstreet Comic Book Price guide, and you've got the late Ernie Gerber's photo journals, which are great references. TJ, you got to buy from the comic market, man. I just gotta say, I'm very thankful Amazon is there. I'm very thankful they're carrying our book. But in all seriousness, you know, but I know the story. TJ had a gift card, so he went to Amazon.
Yeah, he did. You're welcome for that gift card, TJ.
Yeah. So
great moderator, you.
So at any rate, when we got word that the lockdown was coming here in New York, I had 17 Milestone issues. No, 19. I had static 1 through 13, which I absolutely consider to be among the finest 13 issues produced in that era of any superhero comic that was on the market during that time. Dwayne McDuffie and Robert Washington III doing the writing, John Paul Leon bursting on the scene as the artist. Just absolutely incredible. It has all the feel of early Spider-Man, that you've discovered something.
Exactly.
And then I had Static Shock Rebirth of the Cool, the 4-issue miniseries that they did after Milestone had pretty much ended. And I had the 2-issue wrap up, Milestone Forever. I had the original stuff. I just lost it in a storage area debacle. the Saturday, we knew that the lockdown was coming on Monday, and we knew that Diamond wasn't going to be shipping new comics. And I am man enough to admit that I'm a junkie. What was I going to do for new comics? I go, I'm going to do old comics is what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. So I immediately started mail ordering comics. So I would have comics every Wednesday, and started supplementing that with maybe 2 or 3 other days a week too.
Yeah.
And the great thing about it was, as people will see with a lot of the prices on this, they were not that expensive, particularly if you're willing to settle for 9.2, which is fine for me. I'm very, very fine near mint minus. I'm going to read them.
Yeah.
I love to have 9.6s. I love to have 9.8s. No objection, but I don't go nuts for that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I started picking them up. I went to this, what I would have called my 3rd or 4th tier emergency backup comic shop. And they were having a sale, and they had a bunch of hardware and Icon. Mm-hmm. And I bought half of what they had, $2 a pop, went back the next day and cleaned them out. And then Monday was the lockdown. And so I hit mycomicshop.com. I hit my sister company, Diamond International Galleries, and I just kept on picking up stuff like this. Now, interestingly, I discovered that very similar to the last issues of the original Valiant, some of these are really not easy to find.
Yeah, because the print runs are low.
We're really low toward the end. Absolutely. So the last issue is Static, where my average price, there might have been a few $20 books in there, but I think that if you took my line average for the whole experiment, I was no higher than $4, and certainly $2 to $3 on a lot of this stuff. I paid $95 for the last issue of Static. Now, it was sweet, and I think it might even be a 9.8. Mm-hmm. It really is it's really a beautiful book. Great Mobius cover too. And I really got excited about chasing this stuff down. And at the same time, I knew my friend Nick Catratis had the original art for Blood Syndicate #1 in his collection, the cover. And I thought, oh, that'd make a nice presentation piece. And so between that and my nearly lifelong obsession with Atlas-Seaboard, and then there's one other caveat there, that I had done a lot of work on a Defiant fanzine. Mm-hmm. And because I don't write about comics enough, I don't write comics enough, I don't collect comics enough, I needed to work on a fanzine for no pay, right? But Defiant's very, very near and dear to me. They, Clark Smith, who was their marketing guy, was one of my tickets into the comic book business. He took time to talk to me, and when I wanted to make the transition from being a guy that sort of had a few articles in Overstreet Comic Book Monthly, and man, Clark introduced me to Bob and Carol Overstreet.
I know, right? That's crazy.
And you think about how my life changed from that point on. I freelanced for Bob for about 13 months. He sold the company to Steve Jeppy. A few of Bob's people didn't want to make the move from Tennessee to Maryland. I was willing to move from Texas to Maryland, and joined the company as an associate editor. And I've been there ever since. I mean, 1995, man.
Yeah.
And I have good friends from the Malibu guys. I have good friends from the Defiant people, early Valiant people, all sorts of stuff like that. And one of the things about this whole process is that now, because of my experience, I know who to interview about this. I don't have to do it myself. I can send one of my co-writers, Scott Braden. I can tell Bob, like, hey, I think we need to take another look at these prices because I'm getting different kind of feedback from people. Mm-hmm. And so it was really a blast turning over this stuff, doing it as a visual guide. This book, the great thing about this book, matter of fact, can we show one of the spreads?
Oh, definitely.
One of the listings. Because what I want to show people here is this is out of the Atlas-Seaboard section, And it's just like the price guide. It's all alphabetical. We've listed 3 prices, not 6. And one of the things about it is that I think this is going to have a life well beyond its pricing because it's a visual checklist.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was mentioning about the milestone stuff, because now I can, because you forget things, right? And sometimes certain titles, when you're like, oh, I want to dive into that, you need that visual checklist to collect everything.
I never had like White Wolf from Milestone.
But what's cool, Jeff, sorry to cut you off. What's cool is that first, before you get into your checklist, you get to brush up on your history.
One of the great things to me about this book was putting these together. If Atlas-Seaboard was just such a blessing to me, because I've been nuts about this since I got Iron Jaw 1 and 4 in a trade in 8th grade.
Mm-hmm.
But we got Jeff Roven, who was the editor of Atlas-Seaboard, to write the intro. I mean, how freaking cool is that? And he told me some stuff that I had never heard before. And I mean, that's just great. And I, all seriousness, I drive people crazy with the Atlas-Seaboard stuff. So finding something new was really great. I think that one of the things that I like most about this process is finding the people in the fan communities who were excited about it. I intellectually appreciate that New Universe was Shooter trying some of the stuff that he perfected at Valiant.
Mm-hmm.
And, and he had the budgetary legs cut out from underneath him. They promised him a certain budget and they gave him less and less and less and less to do it, to where we get to where, DP7 is pretty amazing and has the whole, has this creative team all the way through, Grunwald and Paul Ryan. And I think later Danny Belundi came in as the anchor. But really, Starbrand is the only thing that has an A-list team to start out with, which was Shooter and John Romita Jr. and Al Williamson. Yeah.
And I have to say, man, like, I know.
Look at this from Dan Lawless.
I see that.
I got to tell you, Dan did a story for me for Scott Braden and Mike Malbrough's Kent Menace. Mm-hmm. It's called The Rime of the Retro Mariner. And we were handed a name and one illustration of the character, and we made up the rest. And I will say that after I turned in the script, I got a call from Scott Braden, and then even more so when he saw Dan's art. He just flipped out over it. He goes, "This is just part 1, right?"
Nice.
So that was like a really, really tremendous experience, and it is easily some of the most beautiful art I've ever had on any of my projects. Anyhow, back to what I was saying about New Universe. I became part of the New Universe fan group, and I probably read more New Universe now than I ever did because of their enthusiasm for it. This is true for the Defiant stuff. I really was very conversant in. The other stuff that's out there, Thunder Agents, great stuff. Triumphant. I mean, come on. There's stuff in there that a lot of people forgot about, or maybe never even knew. And there's just, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, because I had a whole team of people work on this, excited contributors who were excited to talk about their specialty. We got Rick Offenberger from First Comics News and Paul Castiglia, who both former actually staffers at Archie, who literally wrote the book on the MLJ superheroes. Mm-hmm. They wrote our big feature article on those characters. And of course, because they've been around for 80 years in 6 distinct universes, it's a huge chunk of the book too.
Yeah, it is. And a good question that came up here is from Heroenberg, says he was asking TJ, having a conversation. So it's only considered a lost universe if the comic company that published it goes under.
Oh no, that's definitely not the case, because Archie never went under. They just found they could make a lot more money for spending a lot less money doing Archie rather than the more detailed superhero stuff.
Yeah. So this book focuses on, obviously, yes, there are publishers that have gone under.
New Universe,
Uh,
Marvel's still around, the
yeah.
last I heard.
Are they? Maybe by a thread, who knows? But yeah, because you have some, obviously some publishers are still around, but the focus was really on those universes they created that didn't last. They got lost in the shuffle.
They came and went,
Mhm.
and in some cases came again. I'm very happy
Yep.
to, Milestone returned. I'm happy that Valiant returned, and to me, and this is a factor of nostalgia, I mean, I can't talk enough about the first year of Static. I just think it's like one of the greatest comic books ever.
Oh, agreed. A lot of what
And
Milestone did. I mean, really,
oh
I'm
yeah,
surprised it.
I'm not trying to slight any of
Yeah,
the other titles. I mean, Hardware, are you kidding? Look at what they're
amazing.
doing on Hardware now. It's wonderful.
It's good to
But
see the same names back on them too.
yeah, and a lot of it. I but I will say that just like anything else, it's not the same as the original. It can be better, it can be equal, it can be, all this kind of stuff like that. And people who are growing up with this Milestone will feel different than I did, as this is my second one.
Hmm.
That's just natural.
Yeah.
I don't take any offense at it, but I do admit that there is some nostalgia when you look back and you go, man, the 90s was a creative period.
Hmm.
You
To
know?
me, to be honest, I kind of feel like, and maybe I'm biased because that's kind of my main era of comics. Is I feel like the '90s was the last good decade for comics, and I struggled to stay in a lot of the new books from that point on. Really, I'd say probably early 2000s. It started going a little downhill for me.
Isn't that really interesting, that you feel that way? Because what I had to do, and I came to the conclusion painfully, because I'm a collector and I'm a reader, and those two things aren't synonymous; they overlap.
Hmm.
I had to stop collecting, like I had to stop finishing mini series that were boring the crap out of me. Like, oh, there's just 3 more issues. Nah, I'm done.
Yeah.
And because I work in comics, and quite honestly, because I love my job, I work a lot more than full time. And I collect comics, I read comics, and I write comics. So what I like to say is, if comics go south for me, I have big problems.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm militant about not, and the worst thing you can do is not offend me. The worst thing you can do is bore me.
Yeah.
And I really, really work hard at finding comics I like.
Hmm.
And there are weeks where I come away from the store with one comic.
Yeah.
I love when I'm a format junkie. I love seeing nicely produced books.
Hmm.
I give all sorts of stuff a try just because of that. Um, but I really look at trying to keep myself enthusiastic about it. And what I discovered was, well, maybe I'll get fewer new comics and get some more old comics.
Yeah, there's so much. There's so many great comics. There's so much. So that's the great thing, is there's so much to explore,
Yeah.
right? And you've given a guide to it now. You've
Well, that
literally created the guide to it. And I remember, because I didn't not, you weren't telling us what was going on, but I do remember plenty of conversations where you were pretty pumped about some back issues you got, or hey, I'm reading this series, or I got back into this, or I discovered this. And it's like, man, JC's really digging. I remember I don't know if I was talking to Billy one time or something, like, man, he's really digging in, man. He's digging into those back issues. And I started doing it.
and what's funny is the effect that it's had is I'm enjoying the new comics I enjoy
Hmm.
more because I'm not buying stuff out of habit.
Yeah. Sometimes you just continued, right? Like
Yeah.
you were just buying the books every week. The story's stale, but it's like it's part of my run.
Yeah,
It's you're
what's
just
funny,
buying it.
what's funny about it is there's some great stuff, and I'm really like I'm sorry I have ignored the comments from TJ and Nicholas
We'll come back to some of
and
these
Hera and Burke
questions here. Yeah.
because they've had some great comments. One of the things about it is that to me, it's really amped up my enjoyment of doing this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, because because I wonder, because like the 90s was such an exploration for me, right? I was I was younger, you're developing your reading skills as you're getting older, you're exploring more, as you get older, you're allowed to buy certain other comics and things. After a certain point, no one even looks at what you're pulling off the shelf. You're exploring. Then you do hit those teenage years where, girls and cars and other things become more important, but you're still perusing and buying things. And maybe that's the difference there. But there is, I do find myself again gravitating towards back issues, and what's interesting too is, but now things are happening and we see it, right? Things are being adapted for Netflix, for Amazon, for whatnot. The Boys, I knew about it, never touched it. Like the series, then I read it, then I'm like, what? And then I look at that moment in time when that actual series came out originally. And
Yeah.
like, what else was coming out of that publisher at that time? And then again, I'm exploring that publisher. And
Well,
what's happening now to me, Jeff, and it's your fault, is I've been reading this here. And now I'm starting to make a list of things that I need to go. And I'm calling my buddy up at his shop, like, do you have this, that, or the other thing? and he's like, no, and yes. So,
I feel like you just sort of made my day, really, because that's what I want people to get out of this book. If they get a degree of the fun that I've gotten out of this process, and I don't mean it was all fun, it was a lot of freaking work.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, there's 5.5 months in there where it's 16 hours a day plus 8 on Saturdays.
Yeah.
It just was, it was all consuming to me. And I probably drove our editor, Mark Huseman, and our designer, Don Guzzo, I probably drove them a little nuts because I'm normally a little more laid back on what I think of it, but I saw the whole thing in my head.
Yeah.
And like, no, it's got to look this way. And I really tried to make it where it makes sense. And like what you said, it opens with an intro. It opens with the history of it. Each company or imprint that we do, each universe that we do, and it tells you when it first appeared, when it last appeared, and have there been any revivals. And some of the stuff is, a lot of people will know it.
Yeah.
And some of it, not as many.
Yeah. It all depends on your exposure, but that's what's good about bringing the history that you put in here, as well as the checklist, right? The price guide. Because again, some of these books range from, condition $1 typically to $8.
Yeah,
it seems to be kind of the average range.
There's a lot of obviously with the Archie MLJ stuff and the Thunder Agents and Atlas-Seaboard, truthfully, you'll find books that are tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
But the overwhelming, I mean, my joke was, are people really going to want a price guide where a lot of the books are $3? And the truth is, they're $3 and 9.2. You'll pay more for 9.4, 9.6, 9.8.
Yeah.
Just like any other comic. But if you get after this stuff before other people realize how rare it is, you'll feel better than you will when they have to do it later.
Yeah, and who knows, if you're a collector, who knows what they're going to be adapting next? Seriously,
you don't
you have
know.
no clue.
And like literally, to me, out of all the stuff in this, the logical thing that the zeitgeist practically demands be done, if they make a halfway decent static movie.
Yes.
So many people, because don't forget, we had a generation that did grow up with that as a cartoon.
Yep.
If their kids see a live action movie and it's good. It doesn't even have to be great. So many more people are going to discover the Milestone Dakotaverse.
Yeah. Yeah, there's we'll dive into this. We'll flip through these pages and stuff and show some people what we've got going on. But first, what I want to do is we just had a couple. So we did ask the question about what qualifies for a lost universe.
Yeah,
and then we had I saw Mark Wheatley's Black Hood in the thumbnail. Will you talk about it?
Oh, will I talk about it? The question is, can you get me to stop?
And we'll get into that too.
Can we actually segue to the price guide itself instead of the Lost Universes book for just one moment?
We can jump right into that.
Let's show the cover for the big Overstreet Comic Book Price Guide number 52, which comes out in July. It'll be in previews in April. That is Rick Burchett, who hasn't done this character for like 30 years, just dropping back into, boom, this A-list cover. Look at this. This is freaking incredible.
It's awesome. When you first posted it, everyone was like, what?
This guy, this guy's, for better or worse, this guy's best known for the Batman Adventures, which I adore.
Yeah.
But, it gives him the label of being cartoony, which he is not.
No, not at all.
And look at this cover, man. And I buy sets of Black Hood periodically.
Mm-hmm.
Wheatley is a dear friend and in many ways a mentor to me about all sorts of things in comics, and we've been friends and colleagues for almost my whole tenure at Gemstone. So he even hooked me up with Rick to do this cover.
Yeah, Mark's a great guy. I liked hanging out with Mark. Yeah, that's all. You got that cover. There's another cover I really love too.
Which one?
The Black Terror.
Oh, dude.
The Black.
My second time hiring J.G. Jones to do a cover in my second home run.
Yeah.
Incredible. And I want to give a shout out to Mark Huseman, our editor and designer, who did the logo based on the comics where that Black Terror first appeared in. And what I think is cool is he's just going to chuck that bomb. And he's just like,
yeah, he's he caught it and he's ready to throw it right back.
That is Golden Age magic right there, man.
Oh yeah, classic. That's all. When I saw that, I was like, yes. I've been seeing a lot of Black Terror lately, so it was great to see it on the screen here.
And you got one more, Butch Geist, Winter Soldier. I mean, golly, this guy can do cold weather really well.
Yes, he can.
And
Winter Soldier, great.
I've been a fan of Butch Geist since Micronauts.
Oh yeah.
and to get to work with him on 3 covers, it's going to be a good year at Gemstone for Butch Geist covers.
For the inquiring minds out there, how do you select what goes on the covers?
To be very honest, doing the big book, which is a limited edition, it is the oversized, large format price guide that has none of the ads and really not many of the articles or anything else like that. It's really just the prices. It is a very dealer or high-end collector specific kind of book. I am much more likely to have my taste represented on that cover because it's going to sell out.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a huge print run. Now, I happen to love both Black Terror and Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
But the main cover of the price guide in Winter Soldier is a really good example. It's not about my taste. It's about the taste of other people and what I interpret that to mean will sell. My job is to keep this book going, pass it on to the next generation the way now I can't say it's been passed on to me because Bob's still working on it, but I have been responsible for the day-to-day operation since Price Guide 40, and I've worked on it a lot longer than that. And I take it real seriously. I also have that benchmark of, Bob's first 4 covers that were original art. He starts with Don Newton before he becomes like one of the Batman artists, but it's still Don Newton. And then he goes Kubert, Eisner, Barks. So that's the gauntlet that's down in front of me every year when I'm picking cover artists.
Yeah.
You know, and now thankfully I am blessed with a lot of people in the art community who have grown up with that's a bucket list item for them is to do one of our main covers.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel very fortunate with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the end-all leading price guide. I mean, any collector usually has that on their shelf,
Yeah.
if not buying it yearly. I mean, I've been buying it yearly now for probably 15, 16 years. And I'd like to get some of the old ones, but they're freaking expensive.
See, yeah,
Holy smokes.
My favorite one was like I think it was a 9/6 copy of #1, went for $45,000.
Yeah. Holy shit. I was like,
yeah,
wow.
I have a very nice facsimile edition.
Yeah. Yeah, just give me a new run on that or something. Just reprint that and I'll grab that one.
I actually did.
I know you did.
So there's still, you can get the blue cover version. That's still in print.
Yeah. We'll have to go blue on that just to have it on the shelf with the rest of them. Because you guys still sell the back issues of the guides, don't you?
Oh yeah, whenever any ones that we have, we do. And you know, they're all the ones we sell are uncirculated copies out of Bob's warehouse that when he sold it to Steve.
Oh, nice. So those are originals.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. So let's dive back into.
Yeah, let's dive back into Lost Universes. Thanks for that little segue.
Oh,
there.
definitely. Because there's so much content in this. And I know we talk about it being a price guide, but to me, it's not. The price guide part of it is a small fraction. It's the history in this book and bringing the stories. And what's neat is the people that are writing these are connected to the publishing house that has worked on them, the creators.
There's a lot of, like we had Charlie Novinsky, who was the marketing guy and an editor at Topps, did the interview with the Kirbyverse guys.
Yeah.
And he also was huge Marvel letter hack back in the day. And so his contributions on New Universe were great. We've got artists or artists' families, in the case like Paul Ryan's estate, lent us original art. We had Sandy Plunkett and we had Paul Ryan for New Universe art. And I think that one of the things is it's a fairly holistic approach, even though we don't dwell on a ton of the comic art. Comic art is part of what we do, man. So
exactly, a huge part of what you guys do. I mean, because you got to bring that visual aspect in, man. You know, and again, you guys always have on all your price guides, on the how-to books and everything. You have such great, such catching covers. You know, and speaking of covers, because we obviously have one here, which is a physical copy that I received. Yeah. Thank you very much, because there's something in here that absolutely, like, I was like, holy crap, that is amazing. I love you, Jeff. But let's go into some of the other covers here. So, boom.
Oh man, Jerry Ordway, and I'm a huge fan of Jerry Ordway.
I love Jerry.
Having that on there. Of the Mighty Crusaders was a real treat, and it sort of came about by accident, so even better. This one near and dear to me. Alex Saviuk is a great guy, and it also offered me a chance to work with Tom Palmer. One of the reasons I love having Alex Saviuk do this is he did issue 3 of Starbrand.
Yeah.
So he had an honest to goodness real association with the character. Also, I think he did another cover, and he might have done maybe a Night Mask cover too.
Yeah.
But so it was somebody really associated with it, which was a cool thing to really do.
And Sam Rogers, I'm with you. Things are getting a bit scary in Ukraine, and I'm glad the show is helping you keep your mind off things.
Amen. And hey, could you put up TJ's comment there just real quick about the first price guide he got?
Definitely. But hang on, I just I've got my eye on that Starbrand cover.
Full Killer. Let me tell you, I will say this: if you're going to get the hardcover, move quickly. I was just looking at the diamond numbers, so definitely if you want that, move quick.
And if you guys are, just since that was mentioned while we're live and everything, in the description of the show, click the link. It's the first link in the batch. It will bring you right to this page where you can purchase.
Oh yeah, that's our
these
gemstone
books.
site, and it won't let you order it if we're sold out. So if you're placing an order there, you can have faith that you're going to get it.
All right, and then TJ James about the Shazam cover. Right there we go.
Quick.
I think my first copy of the price guide was the Shazam family cover.
Quick story about that. When I was too cool for myself, I didn't like Captain Marvel. I thought it was too cheesy, and boy, do I feel differently now. And what happened was that original cover hung over our photocopier when I first started working at Gemstone. And so every day when I would go photocopy something, I'd look at that. And about 3 weeks in, I fell in love with it.
Mm-hmm. Is it still there?
Oh, no, we're not in those offices anymore. But it really, honest to goodness, that I have such affection for that cover, and I think it's because they always say converts make the biggest zealots. Well,
nice, man. That's
okay. So let's go back to the other Lost Universe cover.
Yeah. So you got there you go, and here's the third.
As I mentioned earlier, I've got this this sad devotion to Atlas-Seaboard, and it really is. That's my first Lost Universe.
Mm-hmm.
They did exactly what the covers were supposed to do. Is I thought they were marvels. A guy in my 8th grade art class was throwing them in as sort of like players to be named later, trying to sweeten the deal to get my Invaders #2. And
did he get it?
Yeah. Yeah. And I got, and among the and literally the only comics I remember out of this trade are Ironjaw 1 and 4. And I really fell for the thing because they, like I said, they were just players to be named later. He's just throwing stuff on the pile. And I thought they looked like Marvels, which is what they were supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And I really liked those issues. And then I had just started mail ordering a few comics from different people. So I was getting catalogs and things like that. And this would be about 78. And all the Atlas-Seaboards were like 1 issue or 4 issues. And like, comic company can't go out of business, can it? and I, oh man, it's just been an obsession. But okay, so I've got Ironjaw. I'm friends with Jason Goodman, the grandson of Martin Goodman, who founded Marvel and Timely, and he gave me permission to use the character for the cover. And I don't think anybody had ever asked Lee Weeks to draw Ironjaw before, but boy, did he nail it.
Oh yeah, he did. I think it's one of the coolest covers.
I'm just I look at it and in fact, like, okay, I commissioned a new Ironjaw cover. I'm cool. Okay.
Right. Nice. And then of course, so this is here. So the cover we got below, and this is the deluxe edition. And this is the
deluxe edition. It is J.G. Jones, who is a phenomenal cover artist. And this was supposed to be a Schism cover, which was going to be Defiant's big crossover of everything. Mm-hmm. And my first article for Overstreet was called it's all been leading up to this, because unlike all the hype in Defiant, it really all had been leading up to that.
Yeah. Nice.
And so JG, this cover, he just finished it up like months ago, and he posts it as I'm turning in the solicitations. I go, no, we need to sign limited edition. This will be the cover.
Yeah.
So I reached out and said, hey, I know you got paid by them way back to do this cover, but how about, I pay you a reprint, even though it was never really actually printed. And he's great to work with. And, first thing, whenever we work with an artist, because we don't do that many covers a year, we don't go cheap. We don't try and cheap out on a cover artist. We pay their going rate. Mm-hmm. And I was so psyched to get that. You know, Herrenberg, if Warriors of Plasm, if we had a J.G. Jones finished cover that dropped into my lap the way this one did, I would have gone for it. But the fact is, he was on Dark Dominion. And I'm really glad he was when I look at this cover.
It's an awesome cover.
Okay, so Nile, you want to show what's on the
inside of this
version,
deluxe?
the inside of this deluxe version?
Yes, sir. So I received the book, obviously, and was going through it, and I somehow skipped the fact that there's the whole signature page right off the bat. And I mean, you got Robert M. Overstreet, you have Steve Jeppy, you've got Jim Shooter, you've got J.C. Vaughn, Scott Braden, Mark Heumann, Mark Huseman, sorry, and Amanda Sheriff. I mean,
or as Billy says, Sharif.
And it's 30. This one's 30 out of 50. So there's only 50 copies of this bad boy.
Yeah. And now I will say that version's only available on the Gemstone site. We just wanted to do something special for the people that weren't near comic shops, which to me meant they're likely to also not be as near to conventions.
Yeah.
We don't do any free shipping or anything off of our site. We try to drive people to our retailers. But so the one you can get in comic shops is the signed version is signed by Bob and me and Scott. So at any rate, sort of cool.
Very cool. I was completely shocked because I had gone through and I didn't even, when I was moving through, then I was like, I'm supposed to read this copy? I'm like reading it so gingerly, And then I was like, you know what? It is what it is. I'm going for it. But yeah, I mean, just some of the names here. I mean, we're talking, geez. Obviously, you have the publisher's notes, the author's notes, the pricing. Then you go into the Atlas-Seaboard, Demon Hunter, Charlton Comics, CrossGen, Defiant, Kirbyverse. I mean, Milestone, New Universe, Triumphant, Valiant. I mean, there's so much, and then on top of that, I mean, you've got separate articles.
Then we do the deep dive.
All the individuals, the deep dive stuff. Yeah.
If you read
600 pages of goodness here, people.
If you read the one article called the Defiant ones, and one of the things about that, as I say, is almost any of these universes could have been our deep dive.
Yeah.
One of the great things about this is that most of the people, not all, but most of the people with Defiant are still with us. And I'm as a writer, I always prefer first person histories than more subjective. Well, I shouldn't say more subjective because first person could be bloody subjective too. But more I prefer to secondhand stuff. We talked to a lot of people. A lot of it came out of when I was working on that fanzine, and just kept growing from there, man. But like I said, we could have focused on CrossGen. We could have focused on Milestone, though unfortunately there's a number, particularly Dwayne McDuffie, that aren't with us anymore.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, the whole team on Static, which is just sad as all get out. But we also, as I mentioned, we had great people to loan us original art. You don't think about there being original art from a small publisher that didn't last a year in the mid 70s. And yet, I was able to call my friend Nick Katratis. And if you flip through the listings on Atlas-Seaboard,
yeah,
right out, you'll see this. This is basically every comic they publish. Now, truthfully, I could have held some of the magazines out because they're not actually necessarily universe copies. They're not continuity. They're more like one-off stories. But it was, there's so few of them. I felt like we could get away with that. So
yeah.
But okay,
you gotta love the monsters. You gotta love the monsters.
But go to the next page. All right. this is so great. Rich Buckler did Demon Hunter. Rich Buckler and David Anthony Kraft, who just passed away, did Demon Hunter. Had one issue, and then he takes it to Marvel, turns the character into Devil Slayer, and then after that, he turns it into Bloodwing at his own company, and it's such a hoot, man. But it's the same character.
Yeah.
And so that's a page, original page, one of two I think we had in there from Demon Hunter. And then if you turn the page there, you'll see
original page 1.
Yeah. And then
Demon
I think
Hunter number 1.
And then we get original page 2.
Yeah.
And then we go to a page from Bloodwing from the Galaxio magazine. And it's sort of the same character. So a little bit of interesting comic history, and then we go into the revival of Atlas.
Yeah, and that's what I loved is you're going through the evolution of some of these. Like, here's kind of where we lost them at one point. Now the universe came back around the sun again, and we went through this journey, and you get to see. Because I'll be honest, I'm trying to remember, because my goal was to read all of it over the weekend, but I didn't get there. I got about halfway through. But some stuff I forgot that they actually came back around. You know, and Atlas was one of them. I completely forgot of this era we're about to go into right now.
And I was super geeked out, excited. We staged. This is actually during this period. I staged my first museum exhibit at Jeppy's Entertainment Museum. We did one called Atlas at Last, talking about it coming back. But we showcased all this original art, all the original comics, and it was a neat little exhibit.
Yeah. And what's crazy too, you have the dates here too. So anyone that wants to, the dates are here. So I completely lost track. It was completely off my radar. But I mean, these weren't that long ago. This is only about 10 years ago.
Yeah. And one of the important things about the guide's always been about more data than just prices.
Yeah.
And what's really cool is there's, where we can find out good information, like this Phoenix number 1 original printing. There are a handful of copies out there from that original printing, but the colors aren't right, and so the bulk of them were pulped. So some people are sitting on some pretty good prizes.
Yeah.
And then we talk about Charlton, which isn't truly a universe, and we explain why, even though that period where we're depicting those things, there's a definite overlapping sensibility, but there's really only one crossover of the characters. And I think it's a backup story,
but it's Charlton, and we all love them.
And then Comics Greatest World. And this is the period where things are just exploding with comic book universes. In that same time, you've got Milestone, you've got Valiant, you've got Malibu Ultraverse.
Dark Horse had some great stuff, man.
Oh, they did.
They had some great stuff. I loved X.
Yeah, a very, very strong performer, and people, you've seen them revive that character and Ghost.
Oh yeah.
So
how does this compare? Like, because obviously Dark Horse is still around. Dark Horse Comics. In these series they have here, what made you consider some of these as lost universes?
Absolutely.
When they've revived
Comics Greatest World as an imprint went away. The idea. They killed off some of the characters. Matter of fact, they had the Predator kill off some of the characters, which is pretty unique, But it was a designed editorial program, and it ended. There is no coherent universe out of these characters anymore that is easily accessible. Doesn't mean they don't bring the characters back. I think they brought Ghost back 3 times now.
Yeah.
And
I think X was brought back too, wasn't it?
Oh, X was brought back. So I think that's twice. and I think Ghost is 3 times. I might be wrong, but you get my point.
Yeah. Ghost was a good series too. I have a couple of these issues. It's funny too going through this, and you're like, I have some of this stuff, and like your brain instantly remembers what you have, and you're like, oh, that's in the box with all the stuff I don't touch. But now it's like you start getting intrigued again, like The Mask. You guys are obviously the movie, right? Jim Carrey. But
Absolutely.
You know what I thought was interesting? There's so much history here, but one thing when I was reading in Milestones is you said that this universe actually a few years later got what many of these lost universes didn't, and that was an ending.
Yeah. That's a really, to me, interesting distinction. There's two universes in here that are within continuity. God bless if I ever figure out their numbering, I'll write more about them. But can you flip over to Future Comics?
Yeah.
Because there's a really great weird thing that happens there, and then we'll talk about Milestone, which gets an actual ending. 160. There we go. All right. So turn. I love that page.
I wanted to show that image.
It's unpublished. So I just love that. All right. So look at the last 2 issues of Death Mask there. You see how they have white borders?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. These are digital printings that came out like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Okay. They've been sitting around unpublished until then. And Skip Farrell, who's the publisher, made them available, and you can order them from him. And so, unlike the whole thing about Lost Universes is, if you get into it, there's that built-in melancholy sadness of you reach the end. You always want more. So I think there's 5 books. I think Death Mask 4 and 5, Free Mind number 8, Peacekeeper number 1, and Metallics number 7. You'll see those white borders.
Yeah, Metallics number 7 and Free Mind number 8.
Yeah,
have the white. Yeah,
yeah, and the Peacekeeper number 1 and only. And so you're like, oh, I just want one more issue. Well, in this case, I got them, and I just want one more issue.
Yeah,
so it's sort of like there's not going to be any salve for that wound. But going back to what you said, we were talking about with Milestone, the 2-issue Milestone Forever, it did wrap up that incarnation of the Milestone universe before the characters started appearing in the DC titles. So that's rather unique in this whole book.
Yes. And then Nicholas Curious, is there a price guide dedicated to the Golden Age?
No, but the Overstreet Comic Book Price Guide, we've been pretty authoritative on the Golden Age for a long time. It is just like anything else, very volatile above 9.2 right now. And that's true for the Silver Age as well. You'll find some Golden Age prices have a little more stability if they're not the high profile books.
And Holy Rock's Corner says, I'm excited to see what some of these books will do in the market now that this book is out.
I didn't create it for that reason, but logic tells us that when people see how affordable some of this stuff is right now, that will change. Now, one of the things I will say, with the numbers of comics that were printed in the 90s, the change shouldn't be drastic and right away either. Because there's a lot of comics out there from the 90s because the volume that was being sold at the time. That said, just like we were talking about the last issue of Static, if you go into Valiant and you look at the last 2 issues, everybody talks about Exo Man of War 68, the last issue. Try finding 67.
Yeah. Plus that you got that, and then you have the the demographics of what are prices when things start. The word of being adapted for film comes into play.
Oh yeah,
I've had a stack of Spider-Man 2099 that when I used to deal with comics, someone wanted it, so I sourced a near mint set and then the person backed out, and it's been sitting on the shelf in the vault collecting dust. Now I'm like, I think I can actually flip this
Oh
for a
yeah,
decent price
yeah. And
with
I
all
think
the rumors going around.
one of the things that yeah, I absolutely agree that there's sometimes it is, and particularly on higher profile stuff, it is just a matter of waiting.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
Neil Vokes sent us that beautiful piece.
yeah. There's so much great content in this book, Jeff. It really is. I I really encourage, just for the history, guys, of what's in this book, of really getting a copy of this. And that's one thing. I mean, in go to the Gemstones website and look at, there's a lot of reference books there, and a lot of stuff ties into collecting. It ties into the price guides, but it's the information that's in between that is really vital, that you're not you're not going to find elsewhere unless you're digging really deep. But then you'll have to put it all together when it's actually already put together for you in these pages. It really did an exceptional job with this book, Jeff.
I'm really glad you like it. You look at that, the Kirbyverse, not a
Yeah,
lot of comics, man. But look at that Jack Kirby's Secret City Saga cover, the blue one up on the top line. Walt Simonson drew that issue. Oh my gosh! If he
yeah,
had drawn that, if he, I mean, I'm obviously a huge Simonson fan, but that cover, man, just like I don't know that they could have come up with a better thing to start off a universe with. It didn't
yeah,
last because that was the timing. Yeah.
yeah. And what's cool too, like as an artist, I look at this and I find a lot of inspiration in these covers and characters that you lose. And some of them, I don't even know if some of these are public domain, or whatever happened to some of these characters, but there's just so much here that kind of, you lose track, right? You lose track of so much because of the mainstream. What DC puts out, what Marvel puts out, it just suffocates a lot of the small press. And even like, you really have to keep track of like what Boom's doing, and IDW, and Dark Horse, and Scout, and all these smaller publications, because they do really get drowned out.
Go back and look. Now Boom obviously is treading in a different area these days
Oh
because
yeah.
they've got some huge hits, and they've secured a very strong place in the market. But go back and you want to find a lost universe. Okay, it's not in this book yet,
Mhm.
but they're Stan Lee comics.
Oh yeah.
They're three Stan Lee series, and they were actually good comics.
Yeah. Yeah, no, again, yeah, there's so much out there. I mean, how many now we've got, volume 1 here, we'll call. But is this a direction you guys are going to be looking to go in the future?
Oh yeah, I can say absolutely it is. Um, it is a template for specialty books that we can do going forward. I would love to get to the point, and I expect to over the next few years,
Mhm.
where we could do the Overstreet Comic Book Price Guide to war comics,
Oh, that'd be
uh,
awesome.
to romance comics, to the supernatural, any kind of genre,
Mhm.
timely, Marvel, DC, Charlton, uh,
Mhm.
all these kind of things that we can do. I expect us to be able to do that in the not distant future. And this book, one of the reasons I put in the hours I put in on this is I was really working to create a template for us to what we can do going forward.
Yeah.
If you want to see how serious I am about this, flip to the last two-page spread. Nope, other direction.
Oh, which way?
Toward
Oh,
the
all the
back.
way.
Yeah, yeah, there we go.
Boom.
We're already working on it.
Second edition.
Yep. And so this one will be the Fawcett Marvel family, since we're speaking of Captain Marvel before.
And
The
you got
Ultimate
Spider-Man 2099.
by Butch Geist.
Yeah.
And okay, I told you I was and am a huge Butch Geist fan.
Mhm.
And I matched him up with Brian Miller, who colors She.
Hi-Fi. Yeah.
And So you can imagine the ego stroke for me. And this is one of those things that you just have to get the energy out of this, because it doesn't put any more money in your bank account or paycheck or whatever. But you find one of your artistic heroes, and when he says it may be among the best coloring he's ever received, thanks for matching me up with this guy.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think that made me feel? You know,
It feels pretty damn good, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's one of those things that I'm really looking forward to it. But we're gonna hit the Ultimate Universe Marvel 2099. We're gonna hit DNA Agents and Crossfire, which is great, because those are books just like Scout, and the spin-offs from Scout, Swords of Texas, and I don't remember with New America, that are published by Eclipse, a distinctively non-universe company. But within that, Crossfire and DNA Agents and their little spin-offs are a universe, and so is Scout.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So that is looking at a March 2023 release.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Which already makes me feel nervous because it's not far enough away.
Well, there's a lot. I can imagine the work that goes into this, just from what I've read so far. But hey, it's worth it. It's worth it. Thank you for your service, JC.
Well, man,
you and your team.
I got to say, this was a really great effort by a lot of people. The enthusiasm. I want to give a shout out to. There's a collector named Mark Davis who started a lot of pages on Facebook about Lost Universes, Defiant, New Universe, and finally just a group page for comic book Lost Universes. And I've never met Mark in person, but he's really inspired me to do a lot of this stuff. Josh Deck, who was one of the collector subjects that we focused on collecting New Universe, Jim Hollister, who collects Defiant. And there are people like this that collect some of these things and that are super passionate about it and have been out there carrying the torch sort of and almost in the dark for years. And all of a sudden, there's Jim. This guy has more Defiant stuff than anybody at Defiant ever had. And
he hijacked the warehouse.
Seriousness. And it's such a blessing to be able to channel their energy in a direction where I can see so clearly that it will encourage other people.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. I love it, man. I love what you guys are doing. And I'm glad that, the second volume is in production. It's in the works. You guys are developing it. I'm excited to see what comes down the road.
I actually sort of have the idea for the third one too. So
keep them rolling. Keep them rolling. I'm really curious too. Everyone in the chat that's watching this live, that is going to be watching this recorded, if you do purchase it, I would love to hear what you have to say about the book.
In all seriousness, I would too, because this is a lot of my opinion about how things should be. And one of the things, matter of fact, I think the only thing that Bob Overstreet is dogmatic about is listening to other people. And as much as this is my template for what to do, there's stuff there will be stuff to fix.
Yeah. Well, I haven't seen anything that needs fixing yet, so
you know what? I'm excited. I'm excited about that. But it's a growth process. One of the great things that I know is that there are differences between first printing and second printing on Overstreet #1. There's stuff that Bob fixed.
Yeah, here's actually a good one. I forgot about this too. What about T.U.N.D.E.R comics? Kevin Eastman's company.
T.U.N.D.E.R is an imprint, absolutely, but T.U.N.D.E.R is not a universe.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, T.U.N.D.E.R published the original Madman, the first 3 issues.
Oh yeah, yep. I forgot about
and a ton of other cool stuff like
The
Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Bo Hampton. Again, not related to, but except in quality.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot. I'd love to see. Again, you get on these topics, things come up. I completely forgot about Kevin Eastman's Tundra Comics.
If we did things like that, like you could almost do a book on just the turtles.
Oh, you could totally do a book on the
You
turtles.
think about this. You've got the whole Mirage run,
Mm-hmm.
which has multiple printings, and we could show visually how to differentiate that.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got the whole Archie run, which was licensed from the animated series.
Yep.
Then the modern and of course, First Comics did graphic novel reprints in color of the early turtles, and then we've got all the IDW stuff.
The Image stuff that IDW finished. They finished that run. That Frank Fosco ended up finishing that run, but that was actually an Image in the 90s, right?
Yeah. Look at that.
There you go. Another book idea right there.
So these are great things, and I think that one of the interesting things in the future is that there will be a digital presence for Overstreet.
Mm-hmm.
And people are you afraid you're going to not sell as many price guides? And I think, yeah, you know what? On the surface of the main price guide, we may sell fewer copies.
Mm-hmm.
But our ability to quickly and profitably, not lose our shirts, do price guides for specialties, I think it's going to be increased. And I think in the end, we're going to sell more print. We're just going to have to work faster and smarter to do it.
Yeah. 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 Especially with the growing collectors market.
And especially because it's going to be really hard for somebody starting right now, even if they become wealthy, to say, I'm going to collect every Marvel comic. But all of a sudden, if they're wealthy, every Spider-Man comic is still in reach.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you might just have to pay $4 million for one, but hey, if you're wealthy.
collecting by character in the age we're living in, to me, makes more sense than trying to collect a whole company, unless you're doing one of these great Lost Universes.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. And now you got the guide to do it. Imagine that. Imagine trying to collect the entire catalog of like Marvel. That'd be ridiculous.
There's people out there, man. But you know what? What's made that increasingly hard is all the variants.
You need Bezos money for that.
All the variants, just to me, I just want to throw up my hands and go, I don't care. But in the end, I do care.
Yeah. Nice. Well, Jeff, thanks so much for hanging out and talking.
Niall, thanks for that. And I know we went a bit long, and I really appreciate the time.
No, not a problem at all. And when I finish this, we're going to put our own video up. It's going to be a review video, probably, 5 to 10 minute video, just discussing the content in there, the quality of the book and everything, and for everyone to get their copies while supplies last. So hopefully that'll be up after this weekend.
Oh, okay. Hang on 1 second. 1 second before we end. There was a question from Brugman to Heroenberg about Epicurus. If it's Epicurus the Sage, yeah. Epicurus the Sage was Piranha Press, DC Comics. But if it's a different Epicurus, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know on that one at all.
I like despite the fact, in all seriousness, despite the fact that I came up with bedtime stories for impressionable children in high school, and thank goodness I've got witnesses, the Piranha Press thing that I loved the best was Beautiful Stories for Ugly Children, which I had nothing to do with, but I loved it.
Nice. All right. Well, hey, this was fantastic, Jeff. Again, everyone, Lost Universe is awesome. And Overstreet Guide is coming out. Make sure to grab a copy of that. All the links are in the description below for the Lost Universes, for the Overstreet Guides. Anything else while you're on Gemstone Publishing, that link is there for the main website. Dive in. There's a lot of cool stuff. I actually have a lot of books from Gemstone, from guides to grading comics to collecting Batman to so many other things. Dive in and check that out. And seriously, this is such a good read, guys. I know it's a price guide, but it's only partly a price guide. The history in this book is what makes it freaking awesome. And if
Niall,
there's any of these left, grab it.
Before we get out of here, what's your favorite part of the book so far? I know you're still making your way through, but what's your favorite part so far? Milestone?
Milestone, I loved. I loved Milestone, the Charlton stuff. Even the Atlas. For me, it's not a specific publisher or comic. The history I'm getting through each journey is what I love the most, and I like going through and just seeing the covers and what's there. Again, it's the original art that's in there, right? Seeing some characters I've never heard of and seeing books I never heard of. That's what's nice when you're reading the history of it, and because you go through, right? You're going to go through, and you read up on the history things, about some of the creators. Then you go through and you start looking through all the different titles. Like, oh wow, I never knew that. Or you look at that, and then I find myself Google searching. But you do it, with a bunch of different stuff.
One of the things we didn't talk about there was like the unpublished stuff. We have a pretty good article on Schism, which was Defiant's big crossover.
Yep.
And what's really great that Schism, that Warriors of Plasm number 13. I got to give a shout out to Scott Braden, my co-author on this.
Mm-hmm.
He just gave me that original art as a
really
gift. Yeah.
Wow. That's
nice. David Lapham gave me the color guide as well, and it's framed. Wow. And Scott and I have been, since we first started working at Gemstone years ago. He doesn't work for us full time anymore. We've always encouraged each other's collecting. So,
oh, very nice. And then just so you guys get another idea, I'm just going to show you a couple more images before we log off here. Like, some of the Black Hood here. I mean, some of them do go for a nice little penny.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And what's great about that is that to me, the Archie stuff is so cool because there's been so many different interpretations of them over the years. And I'm a big fan of the stuff that came out in the Impact era, but I also have gone back and collected some of the stuff from the 1982-83 era where Rich Buckler was doing the Mighty Crusaders, and you get some amazing stuff during that. The first 3 issues read like any good superhero comic, and I mean, it's really accessible.
Yeah. Now, again, amazing stuff in the book, Jeff. Really, kudos to you and the team for putting it together, and thank you again for the copy of it. Really appreciate it. Loving it. Diving into it. Going to finish it this weekend, and really, I love the history in it, and I think everyone else will too.
One of the really exciting things to me about this book, and I'll wrap with this, is that as people see it within our company, our family of companies, the reaction from every one of them is, "Oh, we should have printed more." They all believe that as people see this book, it's just going to keep selling.
Yeah,
and I really hope that's true, because I really want to keep doing a lot of these. I mean, I'm committed to doing number 2, and I'm emotionally committed to doing number 3. And but that, I can pull the plug on emotionally committed. But it's really, I think we've got something that's really cool. And like you said, the goal all along has always been to be more than just the prices. No denigrating the prices. That's how we evaluate things when we collect them. But it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, you're educating the collectors, right? You're educating the collectors on what's out there, bringing up certain collector points that they may not know about or may want to re-engage in and don't really know how to or where to look or what else did they do or whatnot, So it's a really cool thing to do.
Thanks,
so with that, my friend, thank you again for hanging out. Awesome book. Again, everyone, the links are below. If you like listening to what we do here on the POPXP, make sure to click that subscribe button and smash that bell to get notifications when we go live and we upload some awesome content. And next week, we got some great shows lined up for you guys. Tuesday, we have Gabe Altiban and Norwal to discuss their campaigns. Sarah Frazetta is going to be joining us Wednesday to talk about the Frazetta Museum and some comic books that they're going to be issuing now. And then Thursday, if all may be well and right, I think I got a few creators up for a crowdfunding comics episode. So again, everyone have a great night. JC, thank you so much. Everyone enjoy your weekends. Be happy, be healthy, be well, and head on over to Gemstone and grab yourself a copy of this book. Do yourself a favor. All right, JC, have a great night.
Thanks, man.
See you, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us on POPXP. If you haven't already, make sure to click that subscribe button and also click the bell for notifications when we go live and we upload some awesome new content. Also, don't forget to head on over to Twitter and follow us at the POPXP and over on Instagram at the POPXP. Thanks again everyone, and we'll see you soon.